Today I'm looking at What the Moon Brings by H.P. Lovecraft. This is a fairly short little story, a fragment of a dream, and it's sort of like he's just reciting what he had happened in his dream rather than actually telling a story, which is fine. You know, sometimes he writes just for mood and atmosphere. I happen to appreciate the stories that have plots in them, but that's just what I'm drawn to. I appreciate the value of having a little scene setting kind of thing. So in this case, he hates the moon. And we've seen this in a number of his other stories. He thinks it has horns on it, it thinks it's nasty, and it's causing him trouble, and shining lights on things that shouldn't have lights shown on them. And I happen to enjoy the moon, so I appreciate that he is a person who doesn't like the moon, and that's okay. So it's a spectral summer. He's wandering around his old garden, and there's flowers and foliage, and then all of a sudden he realizes that the garden doesn't end. It just sort of falls away into more stone idols and pagodas and other things and dead lotus faces. And they told him to follow, and he, of course, he followed, and he gets to a gigantic sea. And when he's on the sea, he's seeing strange lights, and he's seeing green seaweed, and he sees a condor out in the far distance. And he wishes that he could talk to the condor because he wants to ask the condor about everyone he knew while they were still alive. So now you're getting a sense that maybe he's the only person left on the entire planet, and the condor is someone that he's hoping that he could get information from his departed friends. But no, the condor is too far away, and he can't. And the condor is out in the distant ocean near a gigantic reef. So the main character sits there watching the tide go in and out under the sinking moon, and as the tide is going out, he sees that there's a city underwater with towers and the roofs of the dead, and there's all sorts of dead bodies there with puffy sea worms that are gnawing and glutting upon them. This is like Dagon, where he was obsessed with aquatic creatures, even though he lived in Providence, which is, a fisher town. So very strange to me that he is so upset and disturbed by sea creatures. But yes, the puffy sea worms sit there gnawing and glutting upon dead bodies. And the puffy worms of the sea need no moon to feed by. They will just eat all the time because they're writhing worms. I'm just not that afraid of puffy sea worms. But apparently Lovecraft is. And now all of a sudden the main character has a new chill, because as he's looking out to where the condor was, he realizes that the reef that he had seen at a distance isn't even a reef. It's a black crown of a shocking monster, and that he's seeing the top of it, and that it is big enough so that the hooves of the monster must be way deep into the ground. And he is panicked by this giant monster. It's stone, but he's still panicked by it. And he's shrieking and shrieking. He's worried about the water going down enough so that the face will be visible, because maybe he thinks the stone monster will animate, or maybe it will turn into a real monster. And he's worried about those eyes tracking him down once the moon leaves its orbit. So in order to hide from this far distant reef monster, he plunges himself into the stinking shallows, where amidst weedy walls and sunken streets, fat sea worms feast upon the world's dead. So the thought is that he is going to drown himself in the shallows so that he does not have to worry about when this giant crowned monster wakes up. Now, it's a little odd that he's saying that they're shallows, but somehow in these shallows there's entire streets and stone pagodas and idols and spires and white columns gay with festoons of green seaweed. So they can't be that shallow. If you've got a whole city there. Maybe what he's saying is that there's a city and it's got 5 feet of water in the city, and the rest of the city is up over the surface of the water. But it says that the waves had almost uncovered them. So it made it seem more like he's looking down into a city that has dead bodies and so on. So I suppose this is a dream, and we can't expect dreams to be sensical. But it makes it sort of hard for me to envision what's happening here if he is having contradictions in the way that he is describing the scene. So not one of my favorite stories. Again, it reminds me of Dagon, which is okay. I enjoyed Dagon more than I enjoyed this one because there was an actual plot happening rather than just a guy walking his way in confusion to a sea and then being scared by a statue and then drowning himself. So I'd be curious to hear what you think about it. Let me know your thoughts.